It's a big Monday here. A big Monday. Uh, College football playoff bracket has been released. Obviously, a little bit of fallout from a Sunday of NFL football. I have found Caleb Lohner. I have a new documentary for people to watch. I have actually two new documentaries for people to watch. And of course, the Cowboys play tonight in a game, by the way, which is much bigger than people want to acknowledge. It's a huge game for the Cowboys. We'll get to that in the second segment. We're going to start the first segment talking about the college football playoff. But before we talk about that, I found Caleb Lohner. So we all knew he was playing football at Utah. 4 catches all year long, 4 touchdowns. So in preparation for, I called the Utah St. Mary's game in Salt Lake City on Saturday night. In preparation for that game, we're talking to the sports information director from who did an amazing job. His name was John Vu. And so he was like, well, we were going through the roster and I was asking him some questions. This was on Friday before the game Saturday. And I was like, yo, what about Caleb Lohner? He was like, we got to figure that out. It was the only time the guy was like just not sure as to what was going on. Yeah, I could tell. And I was like, so what's the story? He's like TBD. And then the next day, Saturday, we're at shoot around. And there he is, Caleb Lohner, who, by the way, now looks like the evil Caleb Lohner. He looks like Hulk Hogan when Hulk Hogan went heel. Like he's packed on like an extra 25, 30 pounds. He has a mustache, and the guy means business. Now, for those of you who don't know who Caleb Lohner is, he is a former Baylor basketball player from Flower Mound, actually, hometown of my girl, Christy Hunt. And he I guess he prep schooled somewhere. Then he he was supposed to go to BYU. He didn't. No, he was supposed to go to Utah. He didn't. Went to BYU, transferred from BYU to Baylor, and then went back out to Utah, where he is now playing for the Utes after a season of playing football. It was up in the air whether he was going to play basketball. Here's why I wanted to brought it up. All that to say, Caleb Lohner was a boss on the basketball court on Saturday. They didn't even think he was going to play. He probably had 7, 8 points and like 7, 8 rebounds, but like all were like intense. The guy's playing an invigorated brand of basketball with his new mustache. So keep an eye on Caleb Lohner. The last time we were talking Caleb Lohner was Darby Brown was sitting here talking about him scoring a touchdown playing for Utah. But yeah, Caleb Lohner's the man. 2 sports stars, like the next Bo Jackson. So let's go to college football. First of all season long, as much as you can say like there's too much hype around the college football playoff prediction train and the college football playoff bracket and rankings, every Tuesday night, we knew we were going to get a nice, healthy serving of hype. And if they had kept it going, think about how excited we would be right now for Tuesday night, for the unveiling of the bracket. But no, you know what they did? They put it out at like 12:20 or 12:40, which gave us 20 minutes before the NFL football games kicked off, which I think everybody was like, wait, what is going on? Now, I don't know. ESPN, college football, they're always so in tune with this stuff. So I was like actually kind of surprised, like, wow, I figured they'd get a little more pop from this. But because there was so much going on after Saturday's games. But no, they do it at 12:40. Okay, fine, or 12:20. So like there was a lot going on yesterday. And truly, as much as we are hyper-focused on college football and as much as we don't care about how this stuff is unpacked for everybody in the world to see, it was kind of like, come on. Because I felt like the NFL owns Sundays, right? It owns Sundays. Outside of God, I'd say the NFL has the most power on Sunday. And so ultimately, like, it gets swallowed up in the sea of NFL football that still rules the day, especially Sunday, right? So I was surprised that it was released then because there's a lot to talk about. Scotty, let's get to it. Let's throw that bracket up there. Here it is, folks. Okay, now because look at that. We got Arizona State at 4. By the way, all the crap, everybody's like, oh, what about this? What about that? It's so funny. We have to remember, like, games actually get played and decide all this stuff. So that's what happened. And that's why we have these 4 teams. My first issue with this is truth serum coming from me. Boise and Arizona State being like in the top 4 is a little sketch. I'm sorry. That's just kind of how I see it. Like obviously you would put, if you were putting the 4 best. All right, Scotty, if you were putting the 4 best in there, who would you put in there? Scotty Swingler, ladies and gentlemen, college football enthusiast, host of the Bear With Me podcast.
Do you want my 4 best teams, or do you want me to tell you what I think about this format?
This format.
I like the conference championship having an incentive.
Yeah, but to this degree?
Yes.
To get a bye?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. So what do you make? No, go back. Put that back up there. What do you make of the ACC not having a team in the top 4? But getting 2 teams in.
Right. Yeah, I think that was right. I tweeted, I think the committee got this exactly right. I think they got it exactly right based on the format we have and the way the games were played. I thought they got, I really don't understand the people that have a jillion issues with this bracket. I think they got it exactly right.
Well, because spoken like someone who is, you like this. If you like the conference champion getting a bye, right? Like we see in these 2 cases.
Yeah.
Well, then,
if they don't get a bye and, like, let's say you're Georgia and Texas, if you're not playing for that bye, what are you playing for?
Yeah.
You're both in.
Uh-huh.
So I like to incentivize.
And what do you think about that now, Alabama being left out in favor of SMU?
Don't lose to 2 6-6 teams if you're the best team in the country. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. I talked with my father about this. So when you have a 4-team playoff, the 5th team, the first team out, could, I think, reasonably argue maybe, because what are you playing for? You're playing to see who the number 1 team in the country is.
Yeah.
You're not playing to see who's number 4. You're playing to see who's number 1. And in a 4-team playoff, there have been years where the 5th team could reasonably say, I think we're the best, and we got left out. If you're fighting for the 11th or 12th seed, you're lucky to be playing for the right to be called number 1. Alabama, they could argue they're the 10th or 11th best team in the country. They can't argue they're the best. They can't.
Yeah.
They lost to 2 6-6 teams. So and maybe SMU can't either. But when you have a 12-team bracket, I think any team that reasonably has a claim at being the best team in the country is in this bracket, and then a few extra.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, I do. I think this is the last year we will see this format.
Because ESPN's crying about it so much?
I just think it's the last year we'll see this format. I think it's the last year we'll see this format. I think it's flawed. I do.
Okay, so tell us what you think.
Well, I just think, look, I believe that you should have some, like Boise should be in, no question, but they should not get a bye. Okay, to me, that's a fatal is too strong of a word, but a fatal flaw of this. Like, Boise should not get a bye. They should get in, but they should not get a bye over even like Indiana, like over a school like that. Like, I think it's silly.
Boise won their conference and Indiana did not.
Yeah, but the Mountain West Conference sucks compared to the Big Ten. I mean, so.
But Indiana doesn't deserve a bye.
But I'm saying you can go down that low, and I think Indiana is that.
Okay, so wait, so.
And I think that they should get in. I think it should be almost like college basketball. They should have a spot in the tournament. There's no question, right? But they should not get a bye.
So you cover the Big 12.
Yeah.
Does Arizona State deserve a bye?
Yeah, because the conference is no, but you kind of got me there. That is.
I mean, honestly, I think so. I think they've earned it by.
I think they earned it Saturday.
Yes,
I really do.
Yes,
and I think I'm one of those old school football guys. Like, hey man, if they can't stop you, keep scoring. And guess what? Ultimately, that does help you. Yep. I'm not saying run it up on Abilene Christian, but at the same time, like you win a game like that in the fashion that you did. That's a statement, So I believe after that performance on Saturday, they should get a bye. But Boise getting a bye to me is indicative of issues with this format.
Okay.
You disagree with me, which is fine.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But so
I don't think it's perfect, but I think incentivizing teams to win their conference is a good thing. I think the further away we get, and I'm going to sound like old man on my lawn here, but the further away we get from traditional conferences, traditional rivalries, I think it hurts the sport. I, as a fan in Big 12 country, have no interest in 2 SEC teams and 2 Big 10 teams getting a bye. That's ridiculous. They didn't earn it. I like that your conference championship game can earn it for you.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I do. I like the being incentivized. I do. I truly do have like liking these conference games mattering. I mean, we got hit with so much excitement over the weekend, really.
Yeah.
All the way from, the SMU Clemson game was amazing. Penn State coming back was pretty cool.
Think about this. So in your argument for, if you want to say, hey, let's give the top 4 seeds buys.
Yeah. Texas
and Penn State both lost their conference championship games, and then you'd be giving them a bye. Why? Like what? And by the way, Texas and Penn State have beat as many ranked teams as Boise State has, which is 0.
Scotty, if Boise State and Texas play tomorrow, what's your prediction for that score? I want you to be honest.
I'm taking Boise State by a field goal.
Over Texas?
Yes.
Okay.
Who has Texas beat?
We're going to start drug testing around here.
Let's go.
I mean,
I've got all the. I think Arizona State's going to beat them.
Man, I don't. I see. This is where I get into.
If Clemson doesn't beat them first.
Yeah, that could happen. Clemson could be. Clemson has the horses.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I think this is not like I think this is going to be a situation where pull the bracket up one last time.
Yeah.
So who and I know this already. Okay, so Boise State could play Penn State, right? In that second round game. Okay.
Penn State won't beat SMU, but we can talk about that too. I'm taking a lot of dogs in this bracket, Pete. I really am. This is what I'm not trying to like talk over you.
No, I think this is great.
I get really excited. So the reason we wanted a 12-team playoff was for chaos to happen.
Yeah.
Was we are going to prove in the next 2 or 3 years definitively if that comment about horses is accurate or not. Because we've already talked about the transfer portal, NIL, it seems to have balanced talent, I think. And so
yeah, we've talked about that.
You're right. If this ends up being Georgia and Oregon or Georgia and Texas for the national title, and next year it's 2 SEC teams, you're right.
Dude,
maybe the
pulling
SMUs
for the
and the Boise's can't.
I don't want you to think otherwise. I want Boise State to win. I like that. I am like so in on Arizona State. It's out of control right now.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it in a world of football where there are just 2
ESPN catered.
No,
SEC.
We're gonna see what happens. I mean, we will. And now I get this one. Christy texts me. I agree with Scotty. This is the only subjective way to run it because then it goes back to being too subjective.
Agreed. Totally agree with Christy.
Which is a good point. Like you don't. I don't love guys in a room getting to decide. You know what I mean? Like that always freaks me out a little.
Yeah.
But I think conference tournaments, conference championships should get you in. I think it is unfortunate that at some point we're gonna have like for instance yesterday, like Texas losing, they still would have gotten a bye maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
there's no
incentive.
Yeah, I hate that.
All right.
Yeah. Because if I've got,
but hold on, in college basketball, if I'm kicking ass all year long and I lose my conference championship game, I still can get a 1 seed.
There's a difference between playing 30 games in a season and 12. Though,
Okay.
in my opinion.
All right, so
let's say Texas goes into that game against Georgia and Quinn Ewers is like he is banged up. He's got an ankle deal. Why would you play him if you're guaranteed a bye, even if you lose?
Yeah.
What's the point of winning the SEC now Texas has to bring Clemson and they get them at home. That's the advantage to being a good team.
Yeah.
They're playing that game at home. Like that's because they're ranked high, right?
Yeah.
But now you've got to face Clemson to get the right to get to that next round because you didn't earn it in your conference title game.
All right, let's talk about, by the way, I like how you mentioned that because I want to get into something I saw this morning. Put the bracket back up, Scotty. So here is already, you want to know college football? So third market, whatever they call that, third party tickets buying, like SeatGeek, stuff like that. Already, so $746, the going rate for tickets for Clemson and Texas on SeatGeek.
That's the lowest.
Yep.
Yeah.
For Ohio State and Texas, the lowest is $500. This is as of right now. You ready? All right.
Ohio State, Tennessee.
Ohio State, Tennessee. Sorry. Yeah. $500. All right. Now I'll let you, I'll give you a shot on this. Indiana, Notre Dame, over under 1,000.
Is it over?
1631.
Wow.
$1,631. And then SMU and Penn State 333.
Yeah.
But so I cannot tell you how excited I am for this. Like, we get a playoff. How cool is that going to be?
It looks awesome.
It looks so cool. So all right, take it down now. I want to hear some of your predictions. Like cuz you were excited about this. So let's hear, like, what are your thoughts as to who will take this then?
Pete, I'm going to tell you something. I think Notre Dame is fraudulent. They haven't really beaten anybody. They lost to, was it Northern Illinois they lost to week 2? I know week 2 is a long time ago, but I just was talking about how much I respect the grind of a conference schedule, a conference championship game. Notre Dame gets to skate against all of that. USC sucked this year. Like, they really didn't play much. Pete, I'm going to throw up some highlights because I think my darling team of the season, the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm not saying they will win in South Bend, but I'm saying if they do win in South Bend, I am picking them to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. What? Absolutely. That is my big homer underdog take. I think they can do it.
So I like, by the way, I like this take a lot. I like Indiana in this game. Because I think that Notre Dame's huge advantage in a game like this was to get someone on, like, foreign soil. Like, you're playing in South Bend. It's freezing cold,
but it's, like, an in-state.
Yeah. Now you got a team like a meat and potato squad from Bloomington making the short trip to South Bend.
Well, and I just think the way that Indiana did kind of have a reality check against Ohio State. The way they did have a tough second half against Michigan. Like, they've seen this level of physicality before.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Notre Dame has all season. Maybe Army. Like, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
What were your thoughts about when it came out? Don't you think that was silly? I spoke about that at the beginning.
Oh, the way that ESPN did it? Yeah. Oh, well, it was silly having a former Alabama quarterback and head coach on your 6-person coverage to cry about Alabama was not good TV, in my opinion. And I think Greg McElroy and Nick Saban are both great normally.
Nick Saban's amazing.
Dude, did you see Brett McMurphy dropped the news 1 minute before ESPN went on the air?
Oh, he did?
Yes.
About the brackets? Like, he knew?
Yes. So Brett McMurphy,
former ESPN
employee, who I think was let go in a string of layoffs. Very, very well sourced, great reporter. At 10, so local time, 10:59, so 11:59 Eastern, tweeted, SMU gets the final seed, number 11. Alabama first team out of the college football playoff.
I saw that. I didn't know that he had.
And ESPN didn't put it on the TV until 40 minutes later.
No way.
Yes.
So do people know that was verified, what he was releasing?
I think people trust Brett McMurphy. He does not tweet something unless he knows.
Yeah.
Like, he's the, in some ways, like the Adam Schefter, the Woj of the college football in some ways.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was hysterical. And it also made
What was your biggest surprise out of all this, out of these rankings or this bracket?
I think.
Were you surprised by the Notre Dame Indiana matchup? I was.
I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah. I think that's a good match. I think all these first round games are incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think they're all going to be very good football.
I think Penn State is going to beat the shit out of SMU.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I truly do. Yeah, I think in Happy Valley, I really do, and I could be wrong. I for whatever reason,
Is it the road environment?
yes, it's the road, it's the time of year, it's too lights, too bright, too big for SMU. That's my thought process on it. The Happy Valley is like quite the home field advantage.
That's true. No, that's valid.
It's going to be a really tough place to play. The Ohio State one, that will be tough for Tennessee. It's a night game. It's 8:00 on a Saturday night. Eesh. You know,
but that's not too far of a trip either.
No, but look, there is so much you mentioned. Like,
but I'll just bring this up again. We're going to learn a lot because Penn State also has not beat a ranked team this season, and Ohio State made them look bad.
Yeah,
like I'm kind of surprised. I know they made the championship game. I would have ranked Ohio State above Penn State in the final. That kind of it surprised me a little bit. Penn State stayed above Ohio State, and it surprised me a little bit that SMU stayed above Clemson.
Yeah.
Because I value, Baylor fan going all the way back to 2014, right? I value the head-to-head result a lot.
Yeah.
Penn State has not beat a ranked team. So you're right. They could come out and just wax SMU.
I think they will.
That would not surprise me. It also would not surprise me if SMU wins that game by 2 touchdowns.
Well, and let's revisit one thing, because I got to give you your just due. I was in on Arizona State. I mean, I sat here in a goddamn Cam Scatterboo jersey in the beginning of October. So I don't want to hear anybody give me shit about being on the outside looking in at Arizona State. However, in this Scatterboo, as we see him going crazy, I did not think that they were going to be able to hit Iowa State in the frickin' mouth the way they did and have Iowa State not respond. The one thing I did say was that if look at this run, dude.
He is unbelievable.
That's so much fun, right? I mean, seriously? Is this another one? No, okay. Yeah, it is. Watch. I mean, he just and today we'll find out, by the way, if he's invited to New York City for the Heisman. The invitations will go out. If he doesn't go to, it'd be the biggest bonehead move. He needs to go to New York City. He struck the Heisman pose, and after the game, they were like, "Hey, why'd you do that?" And he was like, "Because I'm the most underrated player in America." You know?
Yeah, and he is.
And he might. Not anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, after that,
he put the world on notice Saturday. No,
but I was shocked that I knew Iowa State couldn't get down. And if they got down, they'd be in trouble, because I love Rocco Beck, but I just don't think that they have that in their bag to come back, especially from like when they got down like that. I was like, forget about it. What did you see in Arizona State that made you think that they would win like that overwhelmingly, by the way?
It's the way that they've won in the last few weeks. It's they have won big. They have won physical. So like you were talking about punch them in the mouth. That's what I thought would happen. Like they're going to be way more physical. Iowa State and just like Iowa State did not finish the season playing their best football, and Arizona State did. Like Iowa State was playing their best football like early October, you know? And so and I texted you, Cinderella's going to the ball, right? Like I love the Coach Dillingham story of like he's in his early 20s. He's like, I'm going to come back here and be the coach.
Yeah.
And then he does it, and now they go from 3 wins to this. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of their mentality, their physicality.
It's a really cool story.
It's a fun team to watch.
I really and here's the thing, and let's pop that bracket up one more time. So they'll be playing that second round game. I think it's a Peach Bowl game. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that game's going to be in Atlanta, in a dome, where they just showed us their ability to like kick somebody's ass. Like I think climate controlled environments are huge for teams like Arizona State.
And even better,
like if Arizona State's on that screen going to play Penn State, like we looked at last week, they're toast. Like that's huge.
No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, and here, not only are they playing in the Peach Bowl in that first matchup, but if they were to win, the next one is Cotton Bowl. They'll be back in AT&T Stadium in Dallas.
No kidding.
Yes. So it lines up really like I am a hater, Pete. I am a hater. I think Texas is fraudulent. They also have not beat a ranked team this season. And so like, I think Arizona State has a really legitimate shot here to get to the Final Four.
If they could draw like, Oregon.
I think that's going to be the Final Four.
So who's your Final Four?
Should I tell you now or should I save it?
Save it. That's right. You got to save it.
So later this week, we're all going to do that, right? Rogue Sports team is going to do our brackets.
Me, you, Zach, Cam.
I will tell you my final.
You going to let Mike do it?
If he wants to, yeah.
I guess.
I will tell you my Final Four does not include an SEC team.
I mean, look, I'm not. I know you're upset about the SEC.
I'm not upset. I'm not upset. I think they seeded them correctly. I think there's unlike in years past, there's not one SEC team that I think is so dominant they can't be beat.
Okay.
I think they're all very vulnerable.
All right, we'll step aside. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by Slovacek's, Crawford Austin Properties, all the sponsors, Sequoia Family Ford, D1, and of course, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. A lot more to cover, so you got to stay with us. And I've been appreciating some of the movement we're getting with this show, some of the feedback. We're going to keep it going after this.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it did. So,
Deserved it, man.
Which seems like it fit.
Sports.
Welcome back to the show. Zach is now in the chair on the wheels of steel. Zach?
Yes, sir.
All right. So here's what Scotty and I just had an impassioned conversation about the college football bracket, and I want to put a bow on it with this statement here. Scotty loves Boise. Now, he believes that Boise is ready to really make some noise. Right, Scotty? Is Scotty's mic up over there?
Let me get you up. There you go, Scotty.
Tell me when.
Yeah.
All right. So here's
I didn't say Boise. I didn't say anything about what Boise's going to do, except I think they deserve their bye in that seed.
Okay. Here's a thought I have. Okay. And I just had it. And it's something that I should like tease better because it's a big statement. If SMU and if Boise State, if those teams can win, then I'll personally start looking at the college football landscape much differently, in a sense that, you know, Scotty has talked about this and we've mentioned it a little bit, just a flattening out of the landscape of college football because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, because, you know, again, I'll say it, the guy that's a 5-star that goes to Alabama and now he realizes he's going to be a backup for 2 years playing safety. He wants to go play somewhere right now so he can get paid more money. Right. And because now he's not buried on the depth chart. So he'll go play somewhere. And we're seeing that. Right. Like I was talking to a football writer. God, who the heck was it? It was Shahan Jay Araja. And I think it was off like camera or something. But we were talking about how these teams are not getting, they don't have the depth that they used to have. Like Alabama, who obviously is not in the playoff because they lost too many games this year. They don't have the depth, and it hurt them late in games, where whether it's a guy running around that's a menace on special teams, blocking kicks and returning kicks for touchdowns, now that guy is going to play football at SMU, right? He's transferring to go play where he can get paid and make an impact right away. And that's different than 2-3 years ago. So I think and if those teams win, like if Boise wins, if SMU wins, and God forbid they go far, not God forbid, but that's me clutching my pearls as like an old school college football guy.
I would argue that Boise has the kind of pedigree for this, though, at this point in time. Like, let's not go back to everybody not thinking they belong back in, when they beat Oklahoma in a Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, they have constantly, it's kind of like North Dakota State in the division below it, of where once you kind of get in a habit of like being like, this is what we do, then you go out and you do that. Boise has played high stakes football for a long time. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all for them to be, sitting there versus Georgia for a chance to play for the semis, or them being one of the Final Four teams.
I mean, we're gonna see. And if you're right about that, everything changes. The whole system and the whole thing that I believe in is crumbling before my eyes, which is actually a good thing.
And what's hard about your statement is if SMU were to beat Penn State, then it's SMU and Boise State in that second round, right?
Mm-hmm.
So only one of them is going to get to the Final Four.
Yeah.
But I think Indiana and Arizona State are other teams that, or if they were to win a game or two, then I think that would prove the same point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be the same level as like an SMU, but for sure. Well, no, I would say Arizona State's kind of on that same, like these teams don't have the same money to use that a lot of the bigger programs do.
Indiana had never sold out a football game until this season.
Yeah.
They were literally nobodies in the sport. I mean, and not to disparage.
No, I mean, if you go,
like they were nothing, and now they're in it. Like,
what was it? God, they had the Elamine guy who was really good. And then they had they had another player. Gosh, I forget who was their wide receiver that ended up, that was
Antoine Randall L.
Antoine Randall L. Yeah, I was getting mixed up with Khalid Elamine. Yeah, Indiana has not been long on like football history and tradition. So, all right, well, we'll see. I wanted to pop in there and make that point. Okay, Belichick on the Tar Heels coaching job has just weighed in. Let's get the latest on that. I want to. He says we'll see. But I want to this is just breaking news right now. So Bill Belichick confirmed he has been in talks with the University of North Carolina for the school's open position at head coach. Sources told ESPN the talks between Belichick, by the way, 73, and they want these. He's up for that job. He interviewed for it, and I think personally he's looking at a college job because his girlfriend, but that's just me. I think there's a strong woman behind every man making a crazy decision. The good and the bad, right? A lot of times it'll help your life, but sometimes you can get whipped too. That's just an outlier, by the way. I don't truly know if I believe that, but it is interesting when you meet a guy like that has a new young girlfriend. Like a lot of the decisions in a personal life, or you're just kind of like, whoa, like what's going on here? It's like you're on a plane and you're experiencing all kinds of turbulence. So that's interesting. But here's the deal. Belichick just confirmed about a half hour ago or 20 minutes ago on the Pat McAfee show that he has had a couple of good conversations with North Carolina Chancellor Lee Roberts. So when you're talking to the Chancellor, nobody's wasting any time. Like something's happening there. So that gives me the idea that we're up the food chain. Just I know a little bit how this stuff goes. You don't talk to the president until it goes down the line, in my experience being around it. So he confirmed that they've had good conversations and that he concluded the interview by saying about the UNC job, we'll see. The one thing is the transfer portal opens today. So that leaves their roster in flux. So you can expect like North Carolina to make a decision rather quickly on who their head football coach will be, if it's going to be Bill Belichick or not. God, that will be a crazy, by the way, for Bill Belichick not to shut that down is like very telling. So that's what we think of that. And that's the latest on that. One wanted to weigh in and just talk. I hate to say weigh in. What the heck am I weighing in? Juan Soto. I will be remiss if I didn't bring this deal up today. So the superstar outfielder from the New York Yankees originally started his career with the Cleveland Indians, went to a World Series with the Indians, lost it, went to a World Series with the Yankees, lost it. This is not a reflection of who he is as a player, but that's where people may know him from a national perspective. He signed a 15-year, $765 million contract to play with the New York Mets. Now, like, where is this money coming from? Like, if you were to combine, and just to give you a little bit of context, if you were to combine the overall earnings, career earnings of, I think, LeBron James and Tom Brady, you're still like 60 million, something short of this contract. And those are two guys who played for a very long time. This is like, it's great for baseball players. And like, look, this stuff used to make sense. And here's what I'll say. Like, I can remember years ago, you would talk about, okay, well, why is Kobe Bryant making so much money? You can even throw LeBron in there. Why is LeBron making so much money? Well, okay, let's just look at it this way. Movies, right? Like, think about how much Tom Cruise gets paid to do like Mission Impossible movies. Like, it's a franchise. They know it's going to be successful. He commands a certain amount of money because he's a box office draw. And he can, like, he's the only Tom Cruise. Like, you just can't plug in another Tom Cruise. I'm not saying that the guy's like the greatest actor of all time, but you get what I'm saying. It's an example. And by the way, I don't like how this Bois poster is still up. I just noticed that. But we're going to leave it up out of respect because Bois is a great show. If you don't watch Bois, you should watch it on the Rogue Media Network. Mike puts a lot of time into that. It's actually almost like a rewatchables of King of the Hill. And I respect Mike because he puts a lot of work into it. That's Mike Hamilton. So Bois, if you like King of the Hill, you can watch that show. Back to what I was just talking about, as my attention deficit is now on full display. When we talk about Juan Soto and how much money he's making now, to kind of piggyback off the point that I just presented, is there, like, can Juan Soto do something that no one else can do? I guess he can. I guess so. I mean, and then you say, okay, so $765 million, right? I just got off the phone with somebody who brought to my attention that the Yankees offered $760 million. So that, if you tell me you're making that much money, okay, and you're going to go from the Bronx to Queens for an extra $5 million, like, so there's something there that, whether it's personally with Juan Soto, whether he wants to do it, you know, on his own with the Mets, because that's a much different animal. You know, are you going to get the support with the Mets? Well, last year, hey, they made it to the postseason. There was a lot of like charm and good vibes around that. It was kind of like a run that was inconceivable. The Yankees, it's like business as usual, right? They got to the World Series and they fell short. That was upsetting. The deal does include an out after 5 years and no deferred money. If Soto does opt out, the Mets can avoid it by increasing his annual salary in the final 10 seasons by $4 million, from $51 million to $55. That would take the overall value to $805 million. Mets fans everywhere, I want to give you some good news. If Juan Soto were to stay for the entire life of this 15-year contract with the Mets, that would mean for the last 4 years, you would only be paying, Mets fans, your organization would only be paying Juan Soto, because guess what? 11 years from now, you stop paying Bobby Bonilla $1 million a year. So there you go. So for the last $4 million of your deal, or the last 4 years of your deal, you'd only be paying Juan Soto. Now, will Juan Soto still be playing for the Mets in 15 years? No. I don't think that Juan Soto will be playing for the Mets in 4 years. I think this is one of the situations that we see, but this is one that's exceptional because it's for so much money, that he's going to be another guy, a big name free agent that signs in Queens, that, you know, goes over like a fart in church, like my father would say. Just not a huge, it's not going to go over well. Okay. And why did Juan Soto take this money and not go back to New York? You know, you could also say, I've heard from people around baseball this morning, particularly, that, you know, Scott Boras is his agent. Scott Boras very likely is behind Juan Soto, talking to him about the importance of taking the deal and how when you take the $765 million on the deal, you now are, you know, there's levels, right? So now every other player that comes behind you is working on off of this number as the highest ever. I mean, I know it's there because we're talking about the Mets and Steve Cohen and exorbitant amounts of cash that he has, but I'm not quite sure where the return on investment comes from a contract like this. Ultimately, we'll find out. It's like, are we now in the world where, okay, these owners have billions of dollars and they're going to spend whatever it takes to get the best pieces onto the field? Like, you know, are the TV contracts lucrative enough where this makes sense? I guess they are. I guess it does. Unfortunately, I don't have all of that information in front of me right now, but we are getting to the point with contracts that are this lofty as to, like, dude, where is this money coming from? You know, the Mets are not making that much money. Now, is Steve Cohen? Sure. And we've seen this happen in pro sports for a while, right? Organizations take huge swings paying a lot of money for players with money that they have not made earned on the field or within their sports. Sometimes it's money that the owner has brought to the table. So I don't know. Is this the next guy that is getting paid this exorbitant amount of money, or is it a bad deal? You know, we're going to find out. Zach, you're kind of a baseball guy. What are your thoughts on this deal?
So I do think it is a exorbitant amount of money for the amount of time that's spent over it. It's more than, I think, almost any contract in team sport history.
It is.
The thing that I don't know is, like, to put so much of that into one player. The Mets were close, but was it just Juan Soto close? And if so, then maybe Steve Cohen looks like a genius for going out and spending the money to get him then, and that takes him over the limit. But if it doesn't, then everybody always comes back to bad contracts, and that's, you know, like one of them. The reason the Dodgers don't have to deal with any of that is because, you know, Shohei has been phenomenal since they've done it. But if he starts to kind of, you know, wane in the next couple of years, then they'll be like, well, why did they offer him that deal? I always find it interesting to see how much teams are willing to, like, pony up or, like, just throw in for one player. And it always seems like every couple of years there's a free agent like this. Like when Bryce Harper was a free agent, it was kind of, you know, stuff like that. Or, you know, we knew that the market for Soto was going to be big, but Cam and I spent last week talking about how we thought the Red Sox could get him for in the 600 million range. So for it to go all the way up to 765 million just seems baffling. Not bad, but just like you said, where's the money?
Did you hear Cam this morning?
Yeah.
What was Cam saying about that?
That we found that apparently the Mets dug in a little bit deeper to be able to do that. Like how we had talked about how it had been something we saw reasonably of him signing there if he wanted to, of that the money kind of spoke a little bit more than where I think we all knew that he was going to stay in New York. It was just a matter of what team it was.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to come back. I got a couple more footnotes to tie this thing up on. A couple documentaries I want to mention that I can't get out of my mind right now. And yeah, Cowboys Monday Night Football tonight. I'll tell you why that's such a huge game. Stay with us.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level when we shut down to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to.
The only thing we have to look forward to.
That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Sports.
Back here in Central Texas in the Alco building, they've arrested the guy who is officially a person of interest. It sounds like he did it. I don't work for news anymore, so I can make statements like that. But the guy was the guy who killed the CEO in New York City. Oh, wow. And then the guy has a job. Christie's feeding me this information. Guy works for a competitor of her former employer. The guy was really bright, or is really bright. He was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Apparently he's from Towson, Maryland, like Baltimore area. So more will be figured out with that, but that's a crazy story. Crazy story. I like a couple of those. I was watching reports where they have like the former like NYPD detective on, Fox News, or actually I think I was watching on a plane. It was a local New York affiliate. And, they were like, the guy made mistakes, and he made enough mistakes where he didn't make many, but he made enough. And they probably knew who he was for a while, but you never want to release the guy's name in situations like this when you're hot on his tail. The cop on TV, he said, you never want to learn a guy when you're still hot on his tail. And I guess learn him means like ID him, So that guy's going down, hopefully, if he's the guy that did it. What do I know? News people, they eat glass, man. I don't miss that. They're grinding on the story right now, I'm sure. All right, now we're gonna float on over to Joe Montana. Okay, there is a documentary on Paramount, and it's about Joe Montana, and I think it's called Cool Under Pressure. First of all, I put it on Friday night, or maybe it was Saturday. I put it on and I was like, okay, well, I'll watch it. Let me watch this. I'd heard about it. I actually heard about it because Joe Montana in the documentary, it's funny, like, right, all the stuff that like will catch on in promotion, but he kind of like poo-pooed the whole Rudy Rudiger story. Like, yeah, that wasn't quite like that. Like, like he kind of like laughed it off. But so it's 6 episodes. So I turn it on and I think I'm going to get like a 60-minute documentary on Joe Montana, and then I'm like, holy, 6 episodes? Like, how much of this do people need, right? Of Joe Montana? However, it's amazing. First of all, I forgot how good Joe Montana was. And for a big portion of that, I don't even think I was alive. I wasn't. When he was playing at Notre Dame, first of all, it's the same thing as Tom Brady, where like this dude couldn't get on the field. Like in college, like he couldn't stay on the field as a starter. Even in high school, his coach didn't want to start him. But again, like these dudes eat glass. Like he wasn't going anywhere. Like he just stayed on it, always had these weird intangibles. Like Joe Montana, they say like, they didn't say, his accuracy was pinpoint. His arm was so-so, right? His athleticism was awesome. He was a great basketball player. They showed clips of him playing hoops. He was amazing. He almost played for Notre Dame. But he went to see Digger Phelps, and Digger Phelps was like, dude, like if you do play for me, which you can, you're not going to play. So you'll just be on the bench. Because, Digger Phelps had amazing players at that time, who I'm forgetting, and I shouldn't forget. But Adrian Dantley was one. So anyways, he authored like 5 or 6, no lie, amazing comebacks in college. Like, and I'm talking about comebacks like when your team is down by like 30. And so he was always like the comeback guy, but he still, they were like, whatever. And then finally he starts his junior year and they win the national championship. Notre Dame does. And then his senior year, sort of a disappointing season, but then he has this amazing comeback in the Cotton Bowl against Houston, another like amazing deal for him. And then he gets to San Francisco and he kind of battles with Steve DeBerg for the starting job. And then again, this magic, like this dude is just winning games. Like he just knows how to win in a life that was so charmed. I mean, he goes through difficult stuff. A couple things that they showed, which is like total BS. So in 1985, when there just wasn't that much media, they started to drug test players in the NFL because cocaine was running rampant. And Jimmy the Greek goes on to the NFL today, and he's asked by Brent Musburger, like, hey, like there's rumors about a quarterback. This is like when the only show in town was this pregame show pretty much. And Jimmy the Greek is like, yeah, I'm hearing that the story and the rumors are out of San Francisco around a quarterback there who's been abusing cocaine. So now Joe Montana is saddled with this, what turns out to be a total bullshit rumor. And he's like so frustrated. So that was like one of the tough things that happened to him. But this guy had such a cool life. One year he doesn't make it to the Super Bowl. He's heartbroken. And they're like, hey, like his agent's like, well, how about we do a commercial? We'll film it the week of the Super Bowl. It's like a, I don't know, Gillette commercial. It's for shaving cream. And he goes on the commercial, and who does he meet? His wife, Jennifer Montana, who, by the way, is one of the best. Like they call these women wives and girlfriends like wags, right? Yeah. The all-time best wag is this woman. Look her up, smoking hot, super cool, and totally committed to Joe. I mean, this guy's and he's a good looking dude. He's Joe Smooth. They make a great couple. And I remember thinking like, wow, like, no. And by the way, one of the reasons she's the best wag ever, because you never hear about her. And she's doing her own thing. Anyways, I found that to be pretty cool. Joe Montana, and now I'm to the part where he's battling with Steve Young to see, because Bill Walsh is now trying to give the job to Steve Young. It's amazing. Lesson learned, no matter how awesome you are at anything in life, like nothing is ever promised. Like this guy won 4 Super Bowls with the 49ers, and his coach is still trying to figure out a way to put this different guy in because the coach thinks that it's ego. The coach thinks, well, Joe Montana was pretty good, but when he played in my system, he was amazing. And so it's very, very, very good documentary. Another documentary I watched, which I highly recommend, is the Yacht Rock documentary on HBO. The only mistake they made, or maybe they didn't, it's Bill Simmons' group did it. It's called Music Box Documentaries. And it is called the Yacht Rock documentary. And so it can be a little, I think a lot of people are like, still like, hey, what is Yacht Rock? But I guess if you're like that, then this documentary wasn't for you. Truly, it talks about how Yacht Rock got created. Like it was a genre that wasn't even a genre. Like late 70s, early 80s, studio albums that were put together really well. And ultimately, which became like a lot of times like grown men, like singing their hearts out, like ballads. But the Yacht Rock, the whole like phrase was born from these comedians in like 2005 that put together a couple of skits that kind of went viral when going viral was just getting there, I guess, or maybe it wasn't even yet. And they did like, hey, you're listening to Michael McDonald on a yacht, acting like a douche, right? That was who the person that listened to this music was. And all of the artists were like pumped because, when it came back, so did they. But it's a really fascinating documentary. The music is awesome. It's so good. And it reminds you of same thing, like some of the reason these documentaries are important, like history-wise, because if they're well done, right, it is nice for these people to chronicle their success and their authenticity and their particular story. Like the Joe Montana story is unlike any other. It's his story. And the story about these bands and Yacht Rock was just amazing. I mean, and then it leads to, they do a great job mixing it up too. Like, you know, Questlove is one of the folks that's weighing in on this, the Yacht Rock stuff. Thundercat is talking about how important it was to him. All kinds of different like musical artists of yesteryear and of today talking about how important this was to them. And it's really, really, really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I recommend it. Another one, last thing, I plan on spending more time on this, but time kind of got away from us. Tonight, the Cowboys play the Bengals on Monday Night Football. It's bad. I got bad news for you, Cowboys fans. You're going to win this game, okay? You're going to think that you're in the playoff race, and you're not. You now may even get stuck with Mike McCarthy as your head coach, because the more they win down the stretch, the more your delusional owner, who I hold a very soft spot in my heart for, will really think, hey, I can bring Mike McCarthy back. Because remember, as it's been told to us by Matt Mosley, Cowboys beat writer, and other folks around the Cowboys organization have told us right here, that Jerry wants to go with what's familiar and what feels good and feels okay. He's not looking for any kind of drastic change that's going to pump the brakes on any kind of flow his life has. So right now he's developed that's why Jason Garrett lasted as long as he did. That's why Mike McCarthy may last after this season. It's very possible that the Cowboys win a bunch of games down the stretch. Doesn't even mean they have to go to the playoffs. It just means that they win, and then you end up keeping Mike McCarthy, which, by the way, I don't think that's terrible, which is why you may end up keeping him. But I know people are going to shit bricks if the Cowboys go to the offseason after not making the playoffs and Mike McCarthy is still your coach. It's going to be hilarious because I think that has a good chance of happening. Also, you get to fall back in love with Cooper Rush, which is a possibility tonight. Let's look up the spread real quick. I think the Cowboys are, because I'll give a pick and then we'll get out of here. Okay. How does that sound for everybody? Oh, first of all, let's talk about their upcoming games. That's what I wanted to talk about. So they win this game, right? Then all of a sudden they're 6-7. Then they play at Carolina. Carolina sucks. Then they're 7-7, right? Then all of a sudden they're 500. So look out for that, Cowboys fans. And let's take one last check here on this game tonight and what the spread is. Baylor plays at home tonight, by the way. They play Abilene Christian. So let's see. I mean, can I get a game cast here? Here you go. Cincinnati's a 5.5-point favorite. Ooh, wow. All right. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out what's going to happen tonight. But I think the Cowboys are going to win. So it might be a good time for me to take the money line. I think the Cowboys have kind of lost a perception of kind of how bad they are, which can actually be kind of good for a team. So I think they kind of get drunk and keep winning. And ultimately could screw up the big picture for Cowboys fans. But nothing can screw us up here. For my man, Zach Burke on the Wheels of Steels right now. Of course, for Scotty Swingler earlier on. Slovacics, thanks for making it happen. I'm Pete Sousa. The Pete Sousa Show rolls on tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We're going to have Ali Kadlabar in studio. We'll also have a couple of interesting sports stories to share with you. I have no doubt about that. See you tomorrow.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level when we shut down to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but you know, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been, no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And you know we always family no matter where I'm at.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it did. So,
deserved it, man.
Which seems like it fit.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe
more relaxed.
What were a couple of your biggest takeaways?
The person you referred to that I spoke with, I've spoken to some personnel people and general management in the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that. Has the general manager changed at all in the draft for you?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We are Rogue Media Sports.